So welcome. Thank you for coming out. I am Mike Bezanson. I'm the city engineer for the city of Concord, and certainly appreciate all of you coming out tonight. We did have a previous meeting some months ago, 7 months ago, March. And I see some familiar faces from that meeting, so thank you for coming out again, for those that came out again, and for those that it's your first time, welcome. And we're happy to hear from you later on in the presentation. We'll have a time for questions. But you're all here, hopefully, at the right place for the Loudon Road Bridge project meeting. And that's why we're here. We came out and presented an initial meeting in March where we talked about different options and the preferred option that we want to go with the design. And so we progressed that design a little bit, and we'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about, actually, I've got a slide that gives you our agenda, what we're going to talk about tonight. So we'll just situate you with the project location. Again, you're probably all aware of where we're talking about. We'll talk about our purpose and need, again, which we had established for the last meeting. It's the same purpose and need. We didn't change anything from the last meeting.
He's telling him.
And then we'll go through the project development process, overview, benefits, proposed action plan. You can see our agenda here in front of you. We'll get to costs and next steps and then questions. So that's where we're headed. Our project location. You might be able to see highlighted in yellow here. It's basically the bridge and a little bit on either side. We're going to stay within those limits with this project. It doesn't go up or down Loudon Road very far. It's basically a bridge project, and so that's what we're working on here. You'll see that there are two intersections that are included, so there will be some work on either side of the bridge, the approaches to the bridge, but we'll get into that a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Again, I mentioned the purpose and need. It hasn't changed from our last meeting. We're addressing structural deficiencies. It's what we call a red-listed bridge. It's been red-listed for some number of years. And so we want to address that. We want to address the deficiencies with the structure itself. There are also operational deficiencies with how the traffic is working, and we want to address that. Then there are pedestrian crossings that are currently across the bridge right now. We have sidewalks, but we want to improve that. We want to improve the bicycle use. There aren't really bike lanes at all, and so we want to provide for that. But there is Merrimack River Greenway Trail that you may have heard about that we want to provide a connection for. And so you'll see that as we get into the design tonight. And so with us, with the city, we have, did I skip over?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. So with us tonight, we have, I'm here. I also have a transportation engineer that works with me and works with us at the city. She's not here tonight, Karen Hill. And then Tony Punton is here with the DOT. He's our project manager. He's been very helpful as we've progressed through the design to get it to this point. And then we have our design consulting team with HDR. Rock is here. He'll be standing up in a minute to give the rest of the presentation. Keith Coda is here. Nick Karen is also here. Phil Fusco is here, and Kevin Slattery, as well as we've got others on the team that are also here that aren't necessarily on the slide. Audrey's here. But those are our leads and our primary folks that are heading up the different aspects of the project. So now I'll skip forward through what we already talked about and get to the project development process. And this is the point where I'm going to hand it over.
Thanks, Mike. Well, I'm glad that we don't outnumber the number of participants, although it's kind of close. So thanks all for coming out tonight. We'll try to keep it short. We don't want to get in the way of tonight's game, which I think is, what time? 8 o'clock? 8:15. All right. I want to be home for that as well, so we'll try to focus. Again, as Mike said, since last we met in March, we kind of presented what our preferred alternative was going to be at that time, or what our our preferred alternative. We're going to show you a little bit about the amount of work that we've done since March, and how we've developed the plans and what we're thinking about going forward. So first, on the project development process, this is New Hampshire DOT's typical LPA, local project administration workflow, and where we're at with that. A lot of the money is coming from DOT for this project, 80% of it, so there's a certain process that we are following to go through that process, and that also outlines what we have to do for the environmental process as well. So you can see up here, we are basically here in the project development process. Last time we came here, we were somewhere around here after we finished the engineering study, and we had a number of alternatives that we presented and ran through all of those for you. So we're here now in preliminary design, and after this meeting, hopefully we get out of here successfully with our skin tonight. We'll be moving forward with developing the 60% design submittal and moving through all of the environmental process and going through that process to actually get plans to the DOT for their review and to the city for their review. And you can see all the way up through step 6 and 7. Construction comes way later. We still have to finalize the design here. So where we are in the project development process, we've already done all of these things up here. We've collected and analyzed all of this data. We developed the draft purpose and need statement that we presented at the first public information meeting. We developed the range of alternatives that we presented at the last meeting. We got input from you folks back in March. And we've evaluated potential environmental impacts for the alternative that we're moving forward with, and that is still underway as we're going on right now. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So tonight we're looking at the recommended proposed action plan, and that action plan has to meet the purpose and need statement that was developed and presented last time we met. And I think one of the things that I want to focus on in that purpose and need statement is a big part of it is enhancing to meet the goals that the city has put out there. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening as part of this project, and one of those, or a couple of those, are improved multimodal access for a lot of the bike and ped community, improved safety with some shoulder widening, and just enhancements that go into a project like this. All that said, this is a bridge rehabilitation project, so there's not a lot that we're doing outside of the footprint of the bridge, as Mike said, but we're doing what we can. All right, next. So I already talked a little bit about this, but the project goals that came out of the scoping process, again, the major component of the project is to address the bridge deficiencies. It's a red-listed bridge. It's in need of repair. So we spent quite a bit of time looking at the bridge condition, coming up with recommendations for that repair, a little bit of widening that we're proposing, as well as some of the deck enhancements, deck improvements, and that's it. And while we're here, we're going to try to address some operational concerns in each of the adjacent intersections. Again, we're trying to minimize what we do outside of the bridge footprint, but there are some things that we could do to enhance operations at Gully Hill Road and Fort Eddy Road to help those intersections operate a little bit better. And out of that, we'll address some of the safety concerns. Interestingly enough, a lot of the accidents that occur in that corridor are right at Fort Eddy Road. I think 94 in the last 5 years is what we saw in the last report. So it's pretty significant, and that is the highest accident location in the corridor. One of the major components is active transportation connections. We talked about that. You see it up here on the plan, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail up here. All of the purple bands are the shared use paths and sidewalk connections. And there's a lot that is going into this project to make those connections for the community, for the MRGT, the Northern Rail Trail, as well as connections to the future Everett Arena improvements that are being planned. So here's where we've been since March. We met with the Bureau of Traffic in August. We talked about some signing improvements along the corridor. Showed them what we were going to be doing. There's actually going to be some overhead signs that are going to be put in adjacent to the bridge over on the eastern side of the bridge. Coming out of that, we've met with the city on the water line improvements that are being planned as part of the project and that are going to go across the bridge. Section 6F meeting with the city, natural resources. These are all environmental meetings that we have to go through to satisfy the environmental process, the NEPA process. And then we also have recently met with Tony and his folks up at DOT with the Estimate Review Committee to go up and meet with DOT to let them know where we are with the current estimate for the project and how programming is going to work going forward. And that brings us to tonight, this meeting here. So this gets into some of the crash data that I was talking about earlier. You can see that this intersection here at Fort Eddy Road and Loudon Road, highest accident location in the corridor for this particular area that we were looking at. 21 crashes per year from between 2015 and 2024, and that results in the crash rate of 1.26. And as you start approaching 1, it's for number of collisions over a number of years, with considering number of vehicles entering along the corridor. So once you start getting up to over 1, that's pretty bad. And so what we're looking to do is try to make some improvements to address some of those things. This will just give you a view of the existing bridge. This is looking northwest. One of the things I want to point out here is the abutments, or the piers rather, in the river, and you can see that they're tapered. If you know this area, you've seen this. The bridge piers are tapered from bottom to top, and we'll get into why I'm pointing that out in a bit. This is the existing roadway. This is looking towards 93 from Fort Eddy Road. I'm sure you all know this very, very well. And this is the existing bridge. Notice the lighting on the bridge and the old rail and narrow sidewalks and no shoulders for any kind of safety or bicycles. Oops. Again, the existing roadway, and this is looking westerly across the bridge from Gully Hill Road. What is a bridge? This is to help folks who don't really understand what the components are in a bridge: substructure, superstructure, all of that kind of stuff. So what you're seeing here is the bridge railing, the deck surface that goes on top of the bridge girders, that are these green things here. They sit on top of the bridge seat here, and then you have the back wall and the footing that supports that, and then wing walls on either side. So these are the components, the major components of the bridge that make up the large majority of the cost. So when we look at the bridge, looking at a cross-section of the bridge, slicing it right down the middle so you can see what it looks like if you're driving up that way. What this will show you is all the different components that went into this over the years. It was first built in 1965, and you can see the width here from here to here. Then it was extended in 1971. It was added to add that additional lanes. And you can see here this thing in the middle that is a gutter. So all of the water, if you drive down there, you know what it looks like. You have the gutter right in the middle of the road, and all the water goes there, and it goes into scuppers, and that goes down into the river. So the overall bridge width is a 77.4 out to out, from the edge of the concrete here to the edge of the sidewalk over here. That's what's out there today. So bridge rehabilitation benefits. What are we trying to do as part of this project? Mike addressed some of this already. We're addressing poor concrete bridge deck conditions nearing end of its service life. It's in tough shape. When we're going to widen the bridge to provide operational improvements, wider shoulders, as well as a shared use path with separation barrier. So there'll be a concrete barrier separating the shared use path from vehicles to make it a little bit safer and provide that buffer. We're going to widen the piers to support the wider bridge deck. We're going to improve intersection operations of both sides of the bridge to the extent that we can. We're going to connect the local trail network. This is one of the goals and objectives of the project, is to make all of those connections to the trail systems. And we're going to replace the bridge rail and approach rail for the bridge. One of the last things, we're going to install ornamental street lighting, and it's going to be consistent with the bridge on the other side of the turnpike, on the other side of the interstate. It's the ornamental Amoskeag. I say Amoskeag. They're architectural lights. So what the proposed action plan, it's basically this plan that you see up on the wall here. Everything that is yellow, I know the colors are kind of tough to read here, but from a plan perspective, yellow is new pavement. So you can see here's Gully Hill Road over here. It's a signalized intersection. This is a signalized intersection. This is the northbound off-ramp, and this is Fort Eddy Road here. And then this here is the little spur for the right-hand turn onto the northbound on-ramp. And then the interstate overpass is right here, and that's a signalized intersection here. So again, all of this yellow area is proposed pavement. That's the limits of the project, the limits of the work. You'll see this green strip down the middle, that's a raised median. Today there isn't a median in the road, it's the gutter that is there. The median will provide some safety benefits for opposing traffic. So that's being proposed there. And you'll see in the westbound direction heading into the city, you have 3 lanes, 2 lanes heading through. One of the notable things that we've incorporated into the project is this exclusive lane here that lines up, once you come through the intersection here, this lines up, this turns into the left turn lane that would go to the southbound on. So it addresses some of the safety issues or the weaving that occurs today as you're going through the intersection and lines people up a little bit better to get onto the southbound ramps, which has been a major concern for a lot of people. And I think that's where you have a lot of near misses and collisions where people are trying to figure out where the lanes are, where they have to go. What we've also done is we've taken this westbound lane here, where today it's an exclusive right to go into Fort Eddy Road, into Einstein's and the mall. And with the number of vehicles that typically make that turn, we've repurposed that and made it a through right. So what it does is this will become another through lane that heads into the city, so it provides a little bit more capacity going through that intersection. And with the number of right turners, it really doesn't impact. So that's the big difference that you're going to see in the operational conditions of this intersection here. And then in the eastbound direction heading up to the Heights, it's just 2 lanes heading up this way. And then we have a left turn to the arena here and a right turn into Buffalo Wild Wings. And signal systems here, and then on either side, it's going to be flanked, the roadway is going to be flanked by a 5-foot shoulder through here. So on this side, it's just a standard 6-foot sidewalk, but there'll be a 5-foot shoulder on the outside. So it's easier for cyclists to get through there and provides a little bit of a buffer, because right now there isn't a buffer from vehicles to sidewalk. Same thing on the opposite side. You'll still have a 5-foot shoulder down this way, but directly adjacent to that shoulder will be a concrete barrier, and then on the back side of the barrier will be a shared use path, 12-foot wide. That's this area here. One of the major components on this end is the ultimate connection to the MRGT. And so you can see this purple band here. The idea is for this path to wrap around, coming around off of the arena driveway, coming around down here. The boat launch is right up here, so that's not being impacted. And so this provides an opportunity for folks on either wheeled or pedestrians to come down here and pass underneath the bridge. It's one of the major components that we proposed last time we were here and showed that to you. So that allows people to make this connection without having to cross Loudon Road here. And what that looks like down here, I'll get into that in a bit. So that is going to provide an ultimate connection here to the sunflower trail, the sunflower field trail down here, and ultimately the city is going to be building that component here and up through this area, and we'll be making that connection when that gets built. Okay. And on this side, we have the shared use path coming across here, and this will be an at-grade crossing for the shared use path going across Fort Eddy Road and ultimately terminating up in this area here. And ultimately, it will get built into the Exit 14 plans when that gets built out as part of the Boat of Concord project. All right, down below here, this is the profile. So if you sliced right down the middle of the roadway here and turned it up on side, this is what the profile of the roadway would look like. So you can see over here, this is Gully Hill Road over here. This is Fort Eddy Road and the ramps over here. Obviously, you have crossing over the river here, and this just shows you the clearance over the river and what the bridge profile is going to look like as you go over the river. This just shows us general relief as you go up and over the bridge. One of the things I want to focus on is this right here. This, if you look at the crossing, the pedestrian crossing here underneath the bridge, this is what it would look like. So there's going to be a small platform that's going to be built out here, 12-foot wide, right up against the bridge abutment, the bridge wall back here. And there's provisions being made to carry that shared use path under the bridge here. And so there'd be plenty of clearance here for folks on bicycles to cross under there. So that's the intent. The typical section for the bridge, so I showed you earlier what the existing bridge cross-section looks like. It looks like this. What it's going to look like in the future is, so we're keeping a lot of the girders down here, and the entire deck is going to be stripped off and rebuilt. You'll see we're eliminating this gutter up here and building it like you would normally see a roadway, and putting a median in the middle. Okay, didn't intend that to be funny, but thank you. Thanks for laughing. So on this side, what you'll see is the 2 lanes. This is heading up to the Heights. This is in the eastbound direction, flanked by a 5-foot shoulder over here, and then a 6-foot sidewalk on this side. And just adjacent to that is bridge rail. On the opposite side, this is the lane that would go to the southbound left to get onto the interstate. So this would be a dedicated lane to the interstate southbound. And then you have these 2 travel lanes, and the right turn would be going over to Fort Eddy Road. You have a 5-foot shoulder here. This would be a positive concrete barrier, and then the 12-foot shared use path over here. So the entire deck will be rebuilt. And over here where you see in red, this is reflects the bridge widening. So to make all of this happen and to make it possible, there's a couple of girders that need to be added on either side here. That's what you see in red. So we're going to be widening out on either side of the bridge to make that happen. Blue here, there's some existing utilities here and here. We're working with the city to, they're working with us to replace one of their water lines down through there and in through the intersection. And that is going to be carried across the bridge here, basically where it is today, but it's going to be replaced. Remember earlier when I talked about the bridge piers in the river and how they were tapered up. So this is how we're going to widen the bridge without having to go necessarily down into the water and do a lot of work in the river itself. So this is going to reflect some widening of the piers on either side. It's going to be tapered from bottom to top. So the river would basically be down here. And then the new girders on this side, the widening would be over those pier widenings. For environmental impacts, a big part of what we have to consider for this part of the project is we prepare the environmental documents, and working with Kevin on that. We have to look at all of the environmental resources, and we're just going to go quickly through this. Merrimack River and species using the river, vegetated and wetland and riverbank and maintained lawns are all examples of natural resources in the project area. So what we have to do as part of this project is investigate all of those, look for all of the resources, identify the resources, if and how we're impacting them. Some of that included bats, so there's actually been a bat survey that was done, and I think there was basically no finding. Okay, so no bat habitat under the bridge. And then also soil conditions, flood zones, and all of this. This is all things that we need to look at as we look to build the project out. This is just going to give you a brief overview of what the area is. This area here is the APE, the area of potential impact that has to be considered as part of the project, that red outline. So anything that falls within that area, we have to evaluate as part of the project and put that together in an environmental report. There are invasive species in this area here and here, as well as designated wetlands in this area here. And I think invasive species here, and the Merrimack River itself is a designated river as well. For permits and environmental approvals, these are all of the things that we're going to have to consider going forward, so it's keeping Kevin very busy. So for the state of New Hampshire, we have all of these permits that we have to go through: Shoreline and Water Quality Protection Act, the alteration of terrain permit, dredge and fill, the designated river that I talked about. And then we're also working with Dancer. I can't even remember what the acronym stands for. Department of Natural Resource. Okay. And then also federal permits, Army Corps of Engineer, Fish and Wildlife Services, Federal Highway, NEPA CE. This is the big document that we have to clear, as well as all of these Section 106 and 4F, cultural, historical, parkland use. All right. Cultural resources. To date, we've reviewed cultural resources in accordance with Section 106, historical reviews. The bridge is not eligible for the National Register of Historic Places as it was constructed post-1945 and falls under the post-1945 program comment. Okay, we've also been working with the The Division of Historical Resources, New Hampshire DHR, for review of the project, has submitted our RPR, or request for project review, and are following up on some of the comments that we've had from them. One of those comments through DHR is we're going to be performing a Phase 1A or Phase 1AB archaeological survey, which means we're going to be going out and digging some test holes out in the ground out there to look for some artifacts. And one of the other things that's going to have to be done is the Everett Arena is more than 50 years old, so there's going to be an assessment done of that building as well. Adjacent projects, I think we've already talked about some of this stuff. The projects that were being considered, definitely in conjunction with what the city's goals and objectives are, the coordination and connections to the Kiwanis Park. We've been meeting with Parks and Rec as well on what is basically planned for the Everett Arena expansion and making sure that what we're doing is consistent with those improvements. The MRGT trail connection here, all of this is being designed to connect to that, and then ultimately connection will be made to the Northern Rail Trail through the Boat of Concord project. So it's not precluded as part of this project. We're trying to set up so that it allows for the future connections. Project costs. So this is, thank you. Recently, September 2025, we went through a reevaluation of this to look at project costs, because as you all know, costs continue to increase, and there's a lot of challenges right now with projects for DOT in the city. Construction cost estimate for the roadway, $5 million, 77. For the bridge, just over 22.8. And then the utility, what you see is non-par. Non-par is the state is not paying for that, the city's paying for that, but it's going to be built as part of the project. That was that $1.75 million for a total construction cost of $29.6. 80% of that is federally funded, 20% of that is going to be city funded. Next steps, these are all the things that we still have to get through. We talked about the environmental study. Kevin and his group are working on that and getting through NEPA. We're going to start working on the 60% design after we get through this meeting tonight, and start working on the final design after the 60% is done, and then we're going to move through the permitting process, clear all the utilities, and then we'll look at bidding. When? Hopefully we're going to get through the categorical exclusion, the NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, in the fall of this year, soon. We're in fall. Complete the final design in early 2027, hoping we're going to be through the 60% design submittal this winter, and advertise for bidding. Right now we're targeting the summer of 2027. Construction, all goes well, we'll be looking at fall of 2027. I know I flew through that. That was a lot of information. I don't know, Michael? That's all I got.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We do want to open it up to questions. So at this point in time, yeah, we can get the lights back on. If you have a question, you want to raise your hand, like this gentleman up front. And I have a microphone right here that doesn't amplify anything, but it's for recording purposes. So Concord TV is here with us tonight. They're recording, and so others will be able to watch this later. So did you have a comment first? Did I see your hand?
No.
Okay.
Tell me about the kind of steel you're using for the underpinning of the bridge. What grade, I'm thinking about if our folks to the east had a natural disaster and this bridge was loaded down every single foot with traffic, cars, trucks, and everything else, could it stand that kind of load?
Do you want to talk about
I think I'm going to hand that off to Nick.
Yeah.
He's our structural engineering lead.
So the bridge that's out there right now, it's a combination of A36 grade steel, which is 36,000 KSI. I don't think there's any 50 KSI, which is modern strength steel, that we're going to be using moving forward with the additional girders that are put on there. That being said, we have modeled the bridge in its current state with the type of steel that's out there right now. And part of that design process is basically loading the bridge up with cars, like a condition that you would not see except for maybe the situation that you just mentioned. and the bridge will stand up. It can hold that load. It's one of the severe design cases that, we hope never happens, but it's a possibility, so we have to design for it. So it's already been done. The engineers that did this bridge back in the 1960s and 70s, they had similar load cases that they needed to prepare for as well. So we're doing that due diligence now and making sure that the bridge is still going to be safe should that condition arrive. So, yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
As you were answering that, I was wondering if you we're taking that extra step of taking a look at a seismic design too. I don't know if you want to mention that at all.
Yeah, sure. So as part of the design effort on this, the bridge, with it being 60 years old now, there were different design loads back when that was constructed. The code has since been updated now, so there are some aspects where in the design codes, they kind of take a very broad brush and say, all right, just use this because it saves time. And it's usually a very, I want to say conservative estimate for how the bridge is loaded in certain scenarios. When we get into these bridges where they're being rehabbed and you're trying to get the most out of something that wasn't designed for what's there today, their code allows us to kind of sharpen the pencil and do a site-specific analysis on the bridge. So what we've done with this one, we were using that broad brush, some of the piers, the foundation elements that are down into the ground were a little bit overstressed. So we were able to go back and use the provision that the code allows us to do a site-specific analysis. So we got with our geotech folks, who took the boring information that we got from collecting that out there this past spring, early summer, and we're able to come up with some more site-specific values that were tighter to the locations of this bridge, and then we're able to reanalyze with that information, and that has allowed us to determine that the bridge will be okay in a seismic event should we get an earthquake. It's not going to be overstressed. You're not going to lose a span.
Where's the nearest fault line?
It's thousands of miles away for a fault line. However, we do get random earthquakes in the state, particularly, Boscawen's a pretty hot spot. Franklin, you kind of see some of those, magnitude 1.5, 2.0 earthquakes. I think there was like a 3 up in Lebanon around that way over a year ago. So they do happen. It's the interplate hot area or whatever. But that is encompassed within the seismic code for this region that our AASHTO partners put together to encompass that. So those are captured in the design parameters that we have looked at for this structure as well.
Appreciate that. I'm going to go back here. I'll come back out to the front. You have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone from General Services is here, but what is the plan for snow clearing on the bike lanes to keep those clear so that you're not forcing people back into the roadways?
Great. We haven't really talked with General Services about that yet. They, I imagine, would just clear the road. That's the edge of the road, so they're going to clear the road. We'll have to look at that and how we clear the walkways as well, but we have equipment to do that. So that's the kind of thing that we'll be able to come up with a solution for. Other questions? You had a question?
At some point in the future, we are going to be expanding the Highway 93. And I'm curious about how that project is going to impact the work that has already been done here on Loudon Road.
Okay, so you're looking for overlap.
Sure. I think one of the things that we've done as part of the project is we've consulted with DOT to make sure that whatever we're doing in this area doesn't preclude what has to happen for exit 14. So we've definitely been in coordination with the project team, with DOT who's working on that. We know that this whole area is going to look very different when that project comes through. They're talking about eliminating the northbound on movement from this direction here. However, keeping that southbound on ramp right there, but we know that all of this is going to change significantly. One of the things that we know is going to happen as part of that project is the bridge here is going to be widened, so it's going to allow for better geometry under the bridge. as well as shoulders and a shared use path, which is going to continue from here on out. So that is being accommodated as part of that project and the overall bridge width through that corridor. So these are all things that we've thought of and talked with DOT about, so we're not going to lose anything. So everything that we're doing won't preclude what's going to happen, and what they're doing is not going to preclude what we're doing as part of this project. Okay.
Okay, my first comment has nothing to do with this project, but relates to a nearby thing that maybe some people here would be interested in. I just read in the paper today that Unitil is redoing their substation on Loudon Road, which has been a pain in everyone's whatever for doing anything out here. And they're talking about redoing it in place, but I think this is the time for the people that are involved in this to talk about maybe if you're gonna redo the whole thing, this is the time to move it. I say it's directly adjacent to this on the other side, so maybe someone here knows about it. And then I have two questions about the difference between this meeting and the previous one. Before, they said you could not go under the Loudon Road because it had to be 10 feet high. So the question is it now still 10 feet high, or did somebody change that number? And the other thing is, at the last meeting, we talked about moving the 16-foot thing to the south edge because that might be more people are there, so there'd be fewer pedestrian crossings of the road, plus there's a lot fewer movements coming out of that off-ramp than going into Fort Eddy Road, so there'd be, less waiting for people if you put it on the south side, so I'd like to know how you decide to keep it the way it was.
I'll take those. The first question, I'm not sure about, I think you're talking about this clearance here for the shared use path? Yeah. Yeah, I think even the last time we presented, I'm pretty sure that we were looking at doing this. I'm not sure what the exact clearance is for headroom there, but it's more than 10 feet.
10 feet's the minimum, but yeah, we're a little bit over that.
Yeah. So I don't think that has changed. That's the same thing that we were looking at last time. I know one of the things that we were concerned about was flood elevations for that, for how far that's going to come up. And I don't know what the storm event is that we clear, whether it's a Q50 or, but that will remain clear in some of those larger storm events. The other question, we did actually look at what it would be to put the path on this side versus the other side. And when we looked at the connectivity heading this way to get to the Northern Rail Trail, and then the connectivity this way in the park, it was determined that that upstream side was really the better way to go for that movement. Even though we acknowledge that there is an at-grade crossing here of Fort Eddy Road, while not optimal, it can be designed to be safe with the signals and to make that to time that properly. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me get up. I may want to use the pointer as well.
Okay.
Name is Ron Rayner. So questions are going to be somewhat redundant from the March 20 meeting.
Sure.
I even did some homework. And are your graphics people, are you able to pull up the 320 YouTube video on the screen now? Are you able to do that or
The YouTube
not?
video?
It was on YouTube. The Concord TV posted it, the 3/20/25 meeting, public hearing.
Okay.
Are you able to pull that up?
I could pull up the last presentation that we made
Yeah.
back in March. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's the 320.
Up to you.
It would just better represent what I'd like to suggest. So, last time, like I said, some of my comments are somewhat redundant, but I had asked last time about the ability to, on the east side of the bridge, to have the MRGT go under the bridge as you are suggesting this evening. And you said, yes, it was being looked into. I was hoping to hear tonight that, yes, you have definitively decided that it can be done.
The answer is yes.
It is, so it
Yeah.
can be done. So
Yeah,
you've
just as
got
we
the
presented here.
elevation, you've got
Yep.
the height.
Yep.
That's great, because I was very complimentary. I think you want to avoid the at-grade crossings, which has been what I've been focusing on. So the fewer pedestrian crossings at grade, I think all the better we are. And the only time, as we mentioned before, would be when there is a flood periodically. So 90% of the time, roughly speaking, you're going to be walking under the bridge, traveling, biking under the bridge on the east side of the river. So compliments for being able to keep that. In terms of the actual width of the MRGT, okay, is that it there?
Yeah.
If
This
you
is
would
from
go,
March.
if you would go to, on the timing, go to 29:20. Oh, it's not the video? Oh.
This is the actual presentation that we made. I don't have access to that,
Okay,
not from here.
all right, see, I did do my homework, 29:20. All right, I'll meet with you later on, maybe. Even Justin liked this from the DOT before he retired. He liked the concept anyway, but
Just curious what your actual question is.
it's on the couple things. One is on the actual width of the MRGT on the bridge hangover. There's one, you have at 14 and 12. You just showed two different slides. That shows 12. The one before it was 14. So I say to you folks, hey, why not do 10? Think about it. What are we going to have crossing over that bridge other than walkers and bikers? People on a bicycle. I'm trying to also lessen the weight, less structural stress, lessen the weight, lessen the cost, a lower loading. Think, what are we going to have for a live load? People and people on a bike.
Snow moving equipment.
You don't need 10 feet. And in terms of one of the questions by another member of the audience, I think he was really asking about how you're going to remove snow on the MRGT. And my guess is, my suggestion would be strictly the city's going to do it with one of their Bobcats. Which is also a light load. So it doesn't need to be designed for a pickup truck or any type of snow heavily laden vehicle. A Bobcat, they're all about town. Lighten the load, lower the cost. Okay, that's one. On the west side, what I'd like to see is you're proposing an at-grade crossing at Fort Eddy. And in your own testimony this evening, you've said that is the most prolific area for accidents. Big surprise. So I've suggested before, try to see if you can actually go over Fort Eddy with an elevated structure, elevated walkway. And tomorrow, when you guys from HDR are doing your homework, go back to 2920 and look at that. And when you get to the west side of the river, you can actually bifurcate the walkway. And you can go down I believe, at a gradient compliant with ADA and go towards the strip mall as you're already showing and planning on doing. That's going to be a done deal. But if you go to the bank, the actual bank, the edge of the river, put in some piles and some piers, you can do the bifurcation of that MRGT and begin a slow ramp up to reach the desired elevation to go over Fort Eddy Road. You're going to have a median, so you have basically 3 piers, one on each side, one in the median, and then followed by lower level piers, of course, developing up to the ramp. It's just, to me, you don't want to have an at-grade crossing at Fort Eddy. You know, I think the trail is going to become quite popular, very common. So, and it can all be done in precast sections, just like the garages downtown. And comments, thoughts,
You have more?
no, well, I just want to get your sense. And the last thing would be on the construction. So if you go to tomorrow, again, if you were to go out to 59 minutes even, 59, on the money, I said, you know, if you really want to save money, let's talk about the construction of it. And you beat me to the point. You read my mind. I said, close the bridge.
Scary.
Close it. So you're saying, and now you're saying a 2.5-year time frame rather than 2. I'm not surprised, but you can, I honestly believe, sincerely believe you can cut that in half, close the bridge, 2 shifts a day, which is what I said before. When you guys do a traffic management plan to, which you have to do, of course, for these projects, how you're gonna facilitate traffic, keeping one lane for, well, half the bridge for construction, half the bridge for passage. You can have a traffic back up on the east side going up the heights. Not a problem. You can have traffic, you can have a line of traffic. On the west side, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. You are gonna get negative comments, negativity, you're gonna tick people off no matter what you do. So I say, take the choice of closing the bridge half the time, you're gonna save 1/3 of the cost. EMS will have issues, but if they know in advance that the bridge is available for passage across the river, or either Manchester Street or 393, they'll know that in advance, they'll prepare for it, and they won't get stuck in a line of traffic. So, you know, it's a wash. And there is an urgent care center right there at Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's it?
That's it. Thank you.
First, thank you for your comments.
If you want to.
I'll try to address as much as I can, and I might pull some other folks in. The width of the shared use path, as you see up here, this is what we presented in March. It's a 12-foot clear path, and that includes, it's still 12-foot clear, right? Yeah. So we get the concrete, so there's a barrier here, and again, this is what we presented last March, so we've kind of taken it from there. So you get the barrier here, 12-foot clear, and then you have this width on the outside. I think 12-foot width is desired from a shared use path perspective. We really don't like to go down below that for bi-directional with those multimodal uses. So that's the recommended. Could we save a couple of feet and shave it down? I'm not sure what that would result in for cost, but you know, right now the recommended alternative is to go with the 12-foot wide because that's pretty typical for that type of path. Snow removal, I think you already covered it, probably some kind of a Bobcat. If you do that, it's not going to be a pickup truck. As far as loading, all of that stuff has been considered as part of the bridge design. You know, so it's not, I mean, if we were to reduce something on, you know, that part of the deck for snow route to allow for, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. You know, what we have to design for, I think, supersedes that. You know, that kind of loading criteria anyway. The at-grade crossing at Fort Eddy Road, yep, not great. I think an overpass, we talked about this last time. I remember the comment. It's a little bit outside of the scope of this project and will result in quite a bit different project and impacts to other areas. And I think, you know, again, this is a bridge project that we're trying to push through, and we're trying to get as much as we can out of it to make it consistent to meet the goals and objectives of the city's uses by making these connections to the MRGT and the Northern Rail Trail. You know, but again, we have to work within the confines of the scope of the work, and putting a bridge over Fort Eddy Road, it doesn't fall within that. That would be a whole different type of project. I don't know if that's something you want to talk about.
I would agree. This is at its heart a bridge project, accommodating because it's relatively simple and it's what the city wants, the MRGT, to have an overpass that would impact private property to the north, go over and come back down would be ideal. The city is more than welcome to construct it by themselves. It would not be included as part of this project from a DOT perspective.
Definitely not going to argue that. I think there's a lot of people here that would love to see that, but you know, you talk about trying to find ways to reduce cost of this project, that would not be one of those ways.
I acknowledge that would not reduce the cost, but I was hoping for comments like DOT to say, yes, conceptually, reduced traffic safety issues, you know, improvement there, fewer pedestrian crossings, yes, more money, but maybe collaboration with the folks doing I-93, McPherson, who is it?
McFarland Johnson.
McFarland Johnson. So yes, collaboration with them, and so that we can leave basically a footprint such that they can do it as part of the I-93 expansion. And to leave the door open, I really think it's that critical. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I see this roadway, in my vision, it's like an artery to bring traffic here and there. Or put the microphone on the floor. Thank you. If somebody's heart stops, you have about 5 minutes. 5 minutes before you've got a dead person. And even at that, the survival rate is abysmal. So I think if you start plugging up an artery, my vision, you might have patient care and liability issues. I speak hypothetically.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions about the MRGT.
Sure.
I was afraid that my questions were going to be too detailed and in the weeds, but now I'm not.
Which plan do you want to see, Dick?
I'm comfortable talking about this plan on the wall.
Okay.
So first question is, how wide will the trail be off the bridge? So I'm saying under the bridge and the loop that goes around to the northeast.
12 feet,
It'll be 12 feet, good.
yes.
And we've also been selling the MRGT as being 100% ADA compatible. Will the grade coming up from under the bridge to the intersection, will that be
Yes.
ADA compatible?
Yes.
Third question is there enough room, given ADA compatible, is there enough room to do all of the climbing away from the intersection so that when someone is approaching the intersection, he's facing southerly, he's at a stop, so we don't want somebody on a bicycle that's on a grade stopping for a pedestrian and has to take off from that. That's a difficult maneuver for several people. So what I would ask is that the trail be flat within a few feet of that intersection, to the north of that intersection.
To the north.
Is that clear?
Here?
Yes, here.
Yeah, and I think we've looked at preliminary grades of that, and
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
that is something that we would consider in this.
Okay, good. And the fourth question is, can you put in a paved connection from that northeasterly corner to the parking lot at the arena?
here,
Yes.
that's something I think we're going to have to keep coordinating with the city on as they develop their plans for the arena. So we've been working with Parks and Rec on that and trying to make sure that what we're doing doesn't preclude anything that they want to build in the future.
Okay, well, let me explain why I'm asking that. In our negotiations with the property owner at 6 Loudon Road,
Okay.
to get the easement so that we could build our trail in
Yep.
his parking lot, he was concerned about trail users using that parking lot. So we told him, as part of that negotiation, we told him that there's going to be acres of parking at the arena. So we want to make it attractive for people to park at the arena and get on the trail without utilizing the spaces at 6 Loudon Road and without having to go up to that intersection where all the traffic is. Yeah, so right there.
I'm
Just
sure
a
that's
short
something-
connection.
I'm not sure what the exact construction schedule is for that part of the project, Mike, but I'm sure that's
So that
something we
might
can
comment,
coordinate.
Mr. City Engineer. Thank you.
Right, and like Rock said, we are working with our Parks and Recreation Director, and they do have a master plan, and they do show a connection over in this direction. So we'll work with them, and I understand what you're saying, and thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay.
Might just be like a clarification thing, because I got a little bit turned around in Ron's question. So when the bridge is being constructed for 2.5 years, is there, like, plans, will it be open on one side and closed on the other? Or is there gonna be like a rerouting plan for the 2.5 years? I apologize if I missed it, I missed the last meeting,
Nope.
so.
You did not miss it. It's a great question. Right now, we still have to go through finally detailing what that's going to look like, but right now, we're expecting to keep 2 lanes open each side and to build half a side at a time on either side. You see the bridge widening that we're doing on either side, we're going to look at staging that on each side, but maintaining 2 lanes of traffic in each direction while we're doing that. And a sidewalk on one side. The way we do that is there'll be trestles that will be built in the river so that the contractor will work from the river and work and build offline. Does that answer your question? Yeah, closing the bridge, I think we'd have a difficult time selling that to the public for a lot of different reasons, and DOT, safety related. Understand the cost, I think. For every project that we do, I think it would be best, it'd be most economical to shut it down and tell people to find another way, but that's a major inconvenience for the reasons that you were talking about, for people's health and safety and welfare, and the traveling public. And I think there's a lot of people at DOT that probably wouldn't find that.
You could always design it such that there be one lane open or passable for emergency vehicles.
It's very likely during the day, if we go 2 lanes each direction, that there may be single lane closures during the day, and you may actually see that. But to have a full-time closure to 1 lane each direction, there's just too much volume there to be able to do that and force everybody to adjacent interchanges. Other questions? It's 7 o'clock. You got time to get back and pour your beer.
Yeah, if there aren't other questions, thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it, appreciate the feedback. Did you have one more? Yes,
Thanks.
the actual presentation, we will get up on the city's website. We also have a video that we'll put up on the city's website at some point. Not sure how soon, but as soon as we can, we'll get it up there. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight.
Have a good night.